Hello.
Yeah. So we just went live here. I'm getting an echo again. We just went live here. So your
Oh,
stream should be
I
up.
took you out of audition. How about now?
Yes, fine. Are your streams up?
I'm just putting you up on, I see you on Periscope. I'm putting you up on Facebook.
Good. Okay. Let me know how the audio is when
I
you can.
see you.
You can test the audio now, can't you?
Oh, I hear myself on the stream. Hello, everybody.
Okay. All right. Good.
Hopefully, I just took myself out.
Yeah. He's talking down the line. That's fine. No, he knows. He just told. Yeah. Do what? Do what? Yeah, you need to get somebody down here.
One minute.
People gonna stream this thing tonight. He's bringing his whole crew. Is anybody video on it? Okay. So we'll do a short segment and take the break and then do a segment. Everybody, you all watching on the stream, we're about to go back on the radio. We're in Selma. This is the National Voting Rights Institute and Museum. This is Fire Rose Touré. We're going to give our introduction when we come back on the radio. But we're in Selma, where I go every year. You all know. Powerful. Come down here and get renewed. You all should meet me here. Mm-hmm. Andrew, can you hear me on the stream?
Yes.
Good.
Coming back.
All right, we're back, and that's the SNCC Freedom Singers, who are always in Selma every year, and they are powerful and appropriately incorporated into our program today as we broadcast from Selma, Alabama. Mark Thompson, our host, is on the ground, and we've already had a great program already, and it's going to get gooder and gooder, as the people say. We welcome now into the program our host, Reverend Mark Thompson. Reverend Thompson.
Good morning, Dr. Daniels. Thank you for sitting in the studio for me, brother. I do appreciate it. We miss you here in Selma. As well. You hear Fire Rose Touré is standing right next. Say good morning, Fire.
We miss you, my brother, always.
Good morning, Fire Rose Touré.
In New York.
Yeah, he said good morning.
All right.
But so we're here now, and you heard, those of you in the first hour heard the mass meeting in the first hour and the power of that. So we are now streaming on YouTube. Andrew, back in the studio in New York, I forgot to tell you, you might want to go around to Dr. Daniels' PC and open up a window so he can see us too, if you don't mind. But what we're about to do, and we're going to be as detailed as we can for the radio audience, but for the Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube audience, make it plain. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, make it plain. You are now seeing the inside of the National Voting Rights Museum and Institute right here in Selma, Alabama. Community built, community owned, community controlled. This is not the Park Service. I'm not trying to knock the Park Service, but this is just, we need to do this for ourselves. And this museum is beautiful. I am standing inside I guess a makeshift jail cell, but these are like real jail bars.
Oh, it's a duplicate of what the jails looked like in Selma back in the 60s, when our people were incarcerated. For just being peaceful protesters, just wanting the rights of a democracy.
Well, first of all, good to see you. Fire Rose Touré, a dear friend. She has organized a Jubilee for, 30 years? Almost 30 years?
26.
26 years. And you hear Brittany laughing, but this is the only civil rights event that is commemorated every single year. We have anniversary march on Washington every 5 years. That might be too much. Other commemorations. We just had Little Rock recently, and that was the 50th. It doesn't happen every year. And beauty of it is Fire organizes the museum and the events in Selma, but it's not the kind of thing where she has to organize people to come. It is so organic.
It is
We
what
just know people come. I mean, we know people gonna come here, and we expect people every year. So that's at least a part of the organization, and it's amazing that that has happened over all these years.
I'm just so pleased that, excuse me, that at least there's one event, but I will not be satisfied until they're all over the country because we have so much history.
Yeah.
And what happened in Selma is not unique, but it's just that we chose to keep it alive because the blood that was shed on a bridge named after the Grand Dragon of a Ku Klux Klan that people still refuse to change is symbolic of what we're facing in this country when we have a president that says, let's make America great again the way it used to be, and that's the way we choose for it never to be again. And that's why this museum and other museums in this country and the Jubilee is so important.
Well, but what is it about Selma though? I mean, because it's not like organically people go to Montgomery and Birmingham every year, or Albany, or place. Or even Nashville. What is it about Selma that just draws everybody here all the time?
Well, they weren't drawn here until we organized it. People weren't drawn here. SCLC celebrated Bloody Sunday every 5 years like everybody else. And then we decided every 5 years is not sufficient. So once we established the museum, and out of the museum came the Jubilee. And once people realized there was something to come to every year, not that people don't want to celebrate and know this history, but you got to organize it on the ground. And what's so unique about this museum is that even though I was, quote, the founder, without Albert Turner, without Marie Foster, without C.T. Vivian, without the Boyntons, there would be no museum. So we collectively came together. So when you have that spirit of the people who actually made the history, because I didn't, and when they joined with the organizers to put this history on the ground every year, 365 days a year, because this museum is open, but the Jubilee is like you said, a pilgrimage, and that draws people. We got this one place to go. We know we can go. The first full weekend in March. That's my explanation.
And you come here and you get energized. It's nothing like it. Before we go to break, though, and folks, our goal is we're going to do a virtual tour of the museum. Those of you watching on social, if you listen on the radio, pull out your phone, go on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, make it plain so you can see the museum. Don't drive and do it, but if you're somewhere. So let's do this quickly. This is a jail cell, and that's Bernard. That's Bernard Lafayette behind us. Tell us a little bit about this. Was one of the cells he was in, right?
Yes, Dr. Lafayette. And if you look over here, this is where he was beaten nearly to death the same night that Medgar Evers was killed in Mississippi. The plot was to kill these major civil rights leaders in the South. But Bernard came here as a young man, 21, 22, in 1961, and organized the youth. There were adults on the ground, but they were not able to ignite a movement. But when Bernard came, he went to the high schools, he went to Selma University, organized the youth. And in 1963, when Mr. Boynton, the elder of the movement, died, he got with Reverend Anderson, the pastor of Tabernacle Church, and say, let's make his funeral a memorial, a voting rights rally, because to his dying day, Mr. Boynton talked about it. And the church was surrounded by thugs and Klansmen determined to kill, if necessary, to kill the movement. But the people lost their fear and they came into that church. And that was the vision of Dr. Lafayette. A few weeks later, they tried to kill him, a few months later. And his belief in nonviolence was so strong that he begged the men that were trying to kill the men trying to kill him not to kill them. Another thing unique about this room is that it was designed by Tarana Burke, who is the founder of the Me Too movement, and she was a great volunteer of this museum, and she actually designed this room.
We got to go to break, so stay tuned on the stream. We're going to continue to show this room. Those of you listening, with Dr. Daniels back in the studio, but we'll be right back after these messages, and I'm going to ask Brittany to see if she can see Bernard's bloodied head right there. This is a jail cell. There's the toilet. Show people the toilet too. Dr. Daniels, we'll be back here in just a few moments.
All right, make it plain. Progress 127. Back as in a few minutes as we'll join Mark Thompson, Fire Rose Ray, and a tour of the historic Voting Rights Institute in Selma, Alabama. We'll be right back.
Shot and his number, and in spite of all this violence at the continents, look at his face. You don't see fear. You don't see hopelessness. You see a man with a vision that's determined to break the back of oppression in not just Selma, because what occurred in Selma was for the good of the nation, not just for black people, but for all people.
He actually looks comfortable right there in that picture. Like he just looks like he's
That's an
satisfied.
actual picture.
He looks satisfied.
It does.
So this is what a jail cell look like. Do we know who these two are right here in this?
I can't see too well without my. These are members of the SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Committee, that came here. Were also a part of the journey, and I really like this.
Can you grab this?
I don't know if you can see this. These are the names and addresses of some of the people that were arrested, and it just touches my heart because they was represented by Peter Hall, J.L. Chestnut, two giants in the movement, and we, of course, we have them recognized in the legal guardians room that we're about to.
Now tell people, J.L. Chestnut was the first black lawyer in Selma?
Oh yes, he was the first black lawyer in the black belt and one of the first in the state, one of the first. And he was joined by Peter Hall, and these men were just outstanding. And of course, he is better known nationally because he was the lead attorney, one of the lead class attorneys in the black farmers lawsuit that brought over $1 billion to our black farmers.
You and your husband, Hank, met at Harvard, and then you all came back here to Selma and joined J.L. Chestnut's law firm.
Well, it was just the opposite.
Oh, he joined your law firm.
Well, we joined together.
You formed one
When
together,
Chess,
right?
when Chess, the oppression was so great that Chess developed a drinking problem. You have to understand, when being the only black lawyer, actually facing people who would threaten to kill you for even cross-examining a white police officer. But when Hank asked him to join the firm, he said, "When I get rid of this problem, I will join you." And he never took another drink.
Wow.
And we were together until he died.
Outstanding. Yes. So, Fire Rose Ray. So we're going to walk out here, and Brittany, be careful. We got a lot of chorus folks. We're doing this for you. We got Brittany working hard for you. No, I'm fine. Don't worry about that chord. We good right here. You got that? Yeah. So you get everything you have, and so
This is the legal gallery. We're entering the legal gallery.
these are legal guardians.
Yes.
All right.
You can actually see a picture of some of the men we're talking about. This right here was one of the, Ozell Bensley was one of the people that actually represented a lot of our people during the 60s. Howard Moore is still living. He represented not just people in the South, but the Black Panther parties and others. And of course, Oscar Adams, a Republican, but did more on the Alabama Supreme Court. Alabama Supreme Court, not just during the 60s, but afterward. Ruby Sales, she's due to be here this weekend. One of our first black judges, federal judges in Alabama. Yes. And of course, Brian Stevenson, everybody knows him. And this is my heart right here. Chuck Way, his death is such a blow.
Mayor of Jackson, Mississippi folks died suddenly about 2 years ago now.
Yes. So let's keep going. We don't need to go up there.
Should we go in
there?
there?
This is a picture of J.L. Chestnut when he was a young man.
And I miss Joe. He was, we would ride around the car in Selma. He would just tell me all the stories. Oh yeah. We just drove all over. And I wish I had a microphone in, because he went down every street and told me a story about what was going on. All right.
This is a typical voting booth, okay? Of course, this is archaic, no longer used. And look at this line. This is the year of the woman, right?
Right.
But the year of the woman was many years ago. Look at this voter registration line. Who's in line?
Women.
Women. And who delivered delivered the victory for Doug Jones on December the 12th?
Women.
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 So you can see there are a few brothers in the line.
But now, just to be clear, is that the courthouse? Is that Dallas County Courthouse? Is that what
They
it
are
is?
standing in line to vote there, yes, to register, yes.
That's it. And folks, a lot of events happen there during Jubilee.
If we go here, though, I think this is interesting because in order for black people to register to vote, they had to give the number of jelly beans in a jar or the number of cows in a jar.
Yeah. How
Or
many
to
cotton balls?
memorize the Constitution, parts of the Constitution.
How
Stumbling block to vote.
How many bubbles in a bar? So
Yes.
how high is up? Those kind of questions we had to answer.
That's a good one.
No, really, it was like that. Now, I want to just point here. I was explaining this to Brittany when we were driving in last night. This is the Lowndes County Freedom Organization.
Black Panther Party.
And that was their picture, their image is of a Black Panther.
Well, it was the first Black Panther Party.
Right.
Because in Lowndes County, there was not a single black registered voter. In Selma, there was like 160, but in Lowndes, there was none. Neither the Democrats or the Republicans were receptive to black voters. Both of them were famous. So the people in Lowndes County, under the direction of people like Willie Ricks, who's here, because he's here with us, and Stokely Carmichael, they developed a new party, and they called it the Black Panther Party. It was truly a political party. So on the ballot, that was the Black Panther. So when you went to vote, you had the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, but you had the Black Panther Party. Under that party, they elected some of their first black public officials.
Right.
Yes, and they went on. One of the members of the Black Panther Party in Lowndes County went on to California. The concept grew in Black Panther Party the way we know it.
Yeah.
Yes, and then we got the Black Panther movie.
That's right.
Black Panther still going.
Black Panther still going. That's beautiful. Folks, we're in the museum. You all let me know when we come back on the radio. And 2 minutes.
You want to go to the other room?
Oh, 1 minute.
Yeah, a minute. Okay. We're going to go to another room. Are you okay, Brittany? Yeah. Brittany's working. Y'all should see her, folks. She's really working hard. We working all these chords and when she's earning. But she's earning too. She's so excited to be here. So now let's look at these water fountains. This is a white-only water fountain here in Selma.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, this was the order of the day. White only, colored only. But you know what? We're celebrating Dick Gregory this weekend, too, because he never missed a Jubilee except the year before he died. And he had many jokes about this white only. And my favorite, of course, is when he goes to a restaurant and they say, "We don't serve niggers here." And he said, "Good, I don't eat them."
That's right.
This is
Make it plain.
But
Make
yes,
it plain.
MIP.
With mozzarella,
Hold on.
not
We come back.
from
Let me
Mark
bring the radio
Make
back.
it plain.
Get
Everybody on
woke.
social media has been watching, but we're bringing the radio.
Okay, we're back. Final hour of MIP, the special edition of MIP, as we're broadcasting live from Selma, Alabama. We'll be rejoining Mark Thompson, our host, momentarily, along with Faya Rose Teray. Those of you who are on Twitter and Facebook are watching as they are touring the Voting Rights Museum there in Selma, Alabama. This year, let's not take the challenge to make Black History Month now instead of just celebrating Black history. Let's create real parallel economic power in America. We are witnessing a global awakening as the people of the world take a knee to protest injustice. But after protests, we must wonder, how can we create lasting progress? The answer is to use the internet to organize our economic resources and create real power. There are over 30 million of us who spend over $1 trillion a year. The internet allows us to organize at a scale and speed that makes us powerful, makes us a powerful economic force. Yes, we can create tens of thousands of new black millionaires, hundreds of thousands of new black-owned businesses, and millions of new jobs for our community by working together, to do anything, to do everything. We can do anything working together. So join the millions who buy black and bank black. Let's again, buy black and bank black. Check out One United Bank. That's One United Bank, the largest black-owned bank in America. Let's make black history now. Go to oneunited.com. That's oneunited.com. Let's make history today. We're now joined again by Mark Thompson with Fire Rose Touré as they are touring the Voting Rights Museum right there in Selma. And those of you who are on Facebook and Twitter can see these gorgeous, beautiful images of this sacred space. Let's bring back now Reverend Mark Thompson.
Thank you, Dr. Daniels, who's back in the studio back in New York. So we're here with Fire Rose Touré, the founder and organizer of the museum and the Jubilee every year. So what exhibit is this right here now where we are?
This is the church gallery because churches played a critical role in the civil rights movement, especially the black church in the South. Of course, churches from other parts of the country, Unitarians and other Catholics, joined the movement. But in the South, the black church was critical. And this room features some of the churches, but there were many. Some of the earlier churches was like Brown Chapel and Tabernacle. But during this Jubilee, we are honoring the churches of the movement. And when we started looking into it, there are many churches that after the movement got really started, other churches began to join the movement. So that's what you find some of these churches. And of course, in this room, in every room, we have what we call foot soldiers prints in every room, because there were foot soldiers involved at every level, church, community organization, schools. So we have some of the footprints. But over here, I would like to show them a picture of Reverend Lord Anderson.
L.L. Anderson.
L.L. Anderson. Of course, as we move in this direction, we see a picture of James Baldwin, who came to Selma in '63 along with James Foreman of the Executive Secretary of SNCC. But Reverend Lewis Lord Anderson, they tried to frame him for murder, and his case had to go all the way to the Supreme Court because he dared to be involved in the voting rights movement. In fact, this is a picture of his church here. And
that's where we were last night for the mass meeting. And we heard audio from the mass meeting, right?
And there are two fronts to this church because blacks were not allowed to enter the church on Broad Street. Mm-hmm. So the people said, well, we'll have two fronts, and eventually we'll be able to enter where we please. They were great enough to do that. But when Mr. Boynton died, when Bernard said, let's have a memorial service in this church where Mr. Boynton attended. And the people in the church said, oh, no, they'll bomb my church. We can't do it. So Reverend Anderson said, well, we'll have the memorial service on the sidewalk. And the people were so embarrassed, they agreed to have it inside. But that was the beginning of the movement. Mm-hmm. Almost 400 people showed up to that rally. Mm-hmm. Prior to that time, they were scared, except the children. But let me tell you, look at this, if you would focus right here. So many churches were bombed throughout the South. But this bombing took place while I was in Selma. This was a church burnt right here in Dallas County. And in the 90s, there was a surge of burnings of black churches. The more the white supremacists felt that we were making progress, the more violent they became. And even when President Obama came here the first time, I think that was 2008, our campsite was not bombed, but it was almost literally destroyed. And what really got me is that the FBI didn't do anything then.
21st century youth leadership.
They just about destroyed our
campsite, right?
We went to the FBI, Excel. We even went to Eric Holder. And my brother Eric Holder did not help us. He did not. I went to him personally, handed him the information. So black churches have always been subject to violence, and very little support have we gotten.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're here in the museum, folks. We're going to go over this way, and I'm carrying a lot of cords and stuff with me, trying not to trip. Brittany's not trying not to trip. We saw the white water fountain. Here's the colored water fountain right here. So can I ask you about something right here? This picture of Martin and Malcolm, and I love to tell the story I was sharing it with our speaker, whom we heard earlier from the mass meeting last night, folks, Staccato Powell, Bishop Staccato Powell. And some of you have been listening to me if you know the story, but Malcolm was invited by SNCC to speak at Brown Chapel on February 7th, 1965. He gave his famous speech to young people: think for yourselves, listen for yourselves, see for yourselves. And he shared the pulpit with Coretta Scott King because Dr. King was in jail in Birmingham. Now, what we have not been able to confirm, because an old time, I don't see him, but an old timer came up to us one year, Dick Gregory and me, and said that he drove Malcolm to Birmingham to visit Dr. King in jail. The jailer wouldn't let Malcolm in the jail. He made him talk to him through the window. But they agreed that when Dr. King got out of jail, they were going to work more closely together and petition the UN for our grievances.
Why they had to kill him?
2 weeks later, 2 weeks after Malcolm X, and this is another reason I think Selma's organic, 2 weeks after,
That's
even
right.
Malcolm X came to Selma, y'all. This is how important Selma was.
Yes. And I actually talked to Coretta Scott King and expressed to her this willingness to work together and gave a warning, the battle of the bullet. But you know what I like about this peace and power? Because we need both. And I think someone said power without a consciousness is destructive, and peace without power is useless.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what these two men stood for,
Yeah.
peace and power. And so they had to be killed.
Yeah.
We have to understand historically in this country why they had to die.
And both at age 39. They both were 39 years old. Yeah, not even 40.
And this year we are celebrating the 5th anniversary of Dr. King's death, and we're so glad Martin Luther King III will be here, along with many of the people who knew him, like Jesse Jackson and Bernard Lafayette, will be here to share their memory of the King and how we must continue his Poor People's Campaign.
I was sharing with Brittany earlier, too, folks. It was such a shock, Bloody Sunday. Dr. King was not here because Brittany, you're about to pull up. Be careful. Dr. King was not here, and Hosea Williams was here representing the SCLC, and John Lewis was representing SNCC. They were just going to march to Montgomery. It was supposed to be, routine and uneventful, just a long march. And then people turned on televisions that night and saw all the tear gas. And Dr. King felt bad about not being here then, but then he called everyone in the country to Selma. It was incredible. These are some of the organizations that were critical to the movement.
It was a collective effort. People, SCLC was the leading organization because Dr. King was a member of SCLC, but SNCC played a critical role in this movement. Young people played a critical role in this movement.
The Highlander Folk School, Congress of Racial Equality, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the SCLC, all right here. Amen. And then we're here, folks, in the National Voting Rights Museum and Institute, bringing it to you live as we actually walk through the museum, believe it or not. Look at us. This is the Jesse Jackson wing, right?
Yes, because Jesse Jackson, well, there are other people that ran for the presidency, but he's the first African-American that made a significant run for the presidency. And also, when we started the museum, the first fundraiser that was done by Jesse Jackson for us. We took that $8,000 in the lot with it. Yes.
Hold this for just a second.
Okay.
So, folks, you can see, show this ready. So this is a kind of interactive piece showing Jesse's life and career. And he actually almost named his firstborn child, Selma. He was going to name Jesse Jr. Selma. And then, because he was born right around the time of the march. So, but this is the Jesse Jackson wing. He'll be here with us later on today.
And this, of course, is the picture with Jesse with King the day he was killed.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the balcony.
Yeah.
There's Reverend Fontroy.
Oh, yes.
Right here.
Sure is Reverend Fontroy. I love Reverend Fontroy. Oh, now we're about to go into the what they call the room of terror.
So this is what is actually called a room of terror.
No, it's not. Of course, we talked about all the violence and the deaths and the killing, and it was not done just by the Klan, but the visible enemy.
The camera? Oh, she got it. Okay, we got it. Okay, I'm sorry. We pulling a lot of cords, folks. Forgive us. Okay, we still streaming? Yeah. Okay, good.
The most visible enemy was the Ku Klux Klan, and this is an original Ku Klux Klan. This is an original Ku Klux Klan, right by, not accident, but a white man needed legal representation, and I'm a lawyer. He said, well, Ms. Sanders, attorney said, I'll give you this, all this Klan paraphernalia if you would represent me, and I gladly did that. But I didn't have to represent him against black people. I want to make that clear. And this sign right here, this is the actual sign that was on Highway 80 during the 30s and 40s. Celebrating the Klan, inviting people to join the Klan. This is the original sign that was on Highway 80. And of course, above is the Confederate flag, because they were one and the same. The Confederate flag represented white supremacy and the Klan. So this is some of the most original stuff that we have in the museum. And of course, I like this this room. This is the Reconstruction Gallery. We're not quite going in order here, but after the Civil War and after the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment were passed, 15th Amendment gave black men the right to vote. No women were allowed to vote, black, white, green. But when black men got the right to vote, we were elected all over the South. So this room shows the men that were elected to Congress. So you see the men from Alabama, Mississippi, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia. These were the men that we elected to public office.
South Carolina, Virginia, and this is because this was the first congressional black caucus. Folks.
Yes, it was. And we call it the golden age of Reconstruction. Of course, the era did not last long because of Klan violence. We should have gone here first, right? Because of the, not just Klan violence, but with the permission of the federal, state, and local governments. You know, it amazed me, Ron, call you Ron because he's on the air,
Right, yeah.
that we go into Iraq because they said he was killing his own people, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this government allowed its own people of color to be killed by the Klan with the support of sheriffs, state troopers, police officers, and absolutely nothing was done about it. And within 30 years, there were very few black congressmen. There were very few legislators and tax collectors and judges in the South because of Klan violence.
It was all out terrorism.
Nothing but domestic terrorism.
And
That's what it was.
And South Carolina and Virginia, folks, this was the original Congressional Black Caucus. And the thing to keep in mind, folks, as we're in the National Voting Rights Museum and Institute, is that it was voter suppression and lynching that they used to get us out of office. And they're doing it. What we have today is voter suppression and lynching in the form of the police.
And what we call the present lynching is the new noose. Yeah. And the new noose, there's actually a conference this weekend called the New Noose under the direction of Dr. Bernard Lafayette at our nonviolence center, our Selma Nonviolence Center, the New Noose. And now I believe that noose is also around our minds, because when we really liberate our minds and understand the power of white supremacy and what's going on in this country, we will not allow what happened during Reconstruction to happen again. But your President 45 has vowed to make America great again, but not the greatness that's revealed in this room through these awesome legislators. They were accused of being crooks and many of the stereotypical things that they say to remove them from power. And isn't it interesting that now those same allegations that they raised against these men, we can raise 45. Incompetent, lazy, corrupt. How many people have been indicted already under number 45? But they use those same tactics to remove these powerful men from office.
All right. The black codes right there, I didn't mean to back that up, but these, in 1865, Southern states created black codes to inhibit the freedom of ex-slaves. The codes controlled all aspects of life by regulating civil and legal rights like marriage, speech, movement, occupational choice, and the right to hold and sell property. Any black without a note after 10 o'clock at night risked imprisonment. This is what we were dealing with, y'all. This is real.
You know, I heard a story that about someone here this weekend, and we wonder why blacks don't support each other in business. There's a reason for that. When we were successful business people, even in Selma, we had a business community, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Those businesses were destroyed. People were killed.
Right.
But a man here this week told me that his grandfather would bring the crop from the farm to sell in the city, and he was told, you can't do that. You're taking business away from our white farmers. That was in the 60s.
Yeah, in the 60s. Wow. Unbelievable. We're gonna walk over this way, folks, as we are touring this glorious museum. We because we're so tethered, we won't be able to show you all of it, but we're gonna do our best. There's an Obama room here.
The women's room.
Now this is Brittany's favorite room, I think.
I got stuck in here for a little while before.
Why don't you, Brittany? Why don't you want to lead us in there yourself?
Well, let's run.
And I'll hold the camera if you want. I'll hold the camera. You know, she never wants to.
Okay.
Show us this room.
Oh my God, this room is just self-explanatory. Gwen Patton, we lost her this year. Okay.
No, Gwen passed.
Yes, and I forgot to.
This year?
Last year, Gwen Patton was one of the early organizers in the SNCC movement. And of course, this is a sister that very few people know, but she's better known now. This is a sister who sat on the bus before Rosa Parks, Claudette Colvin, and of course she was here several times. There are too many women to go through all of them. I want to show you Viola Luzo. Her daughter is here this weekend. And of course Diane Nash, and of course Miss Boynton over here, and Margaret Moore. This was a courageous teacher. If teachers in the classroom would do now what she did, she was not a black history teacher, but she infused black history in everything that she taught, and was one of the organizers of the only teachers' march that I know of in the civil rights movement. So this room is filled with women known and unknown, going all the way back, of course, to Sojourner Truth, and of course, Fannie Lou Hamer, who got sick and tired of being sick and tired. So there's just so many women in this room. Oh, of course, Baker, the elder who brought together the women in SNCC, the young people in SNCC, Ella Baker. Yes, and I was telling you about, of course, Dorothy Heights and Marie Foster. And these are the three women who designed this room. There are three young attorneys, because when we started this museum, we had no money. Literally no money, but the $8,000 that Jesse Jackson helped us to raise. They were legal services attorneys, and they organized this room. And my sister, of course, she was very young then, but for the last 4 years, she's been battling illness.
Adeline Cooper.
Oh, yes.
Now, that's who Oprah portrayed
played
in the movie Selma.
Yes. You know what's the sad thing about it? I have a lot of respect for Oprah Winfrey, I really do. But she came so close to this museum and refused to come in. And I would like to know one day why, because I know that's not her spirit in her heart. But most of the members of the cast of Selma, they did the filming on the bridge, but many of them would not come into the museum, and I don't understand that. Annie Pearl Avery still with us? She moved here because she said there was no movement going on anywhere else in the country. She's been to jail, 40 or 50 times with Stokely Carmichael and Dr. King. So she moved to Selma.
Is there Nona Clayton?
That's her. Mm-hmm.
Over there, Mrs. King. Maxine is up there.
Oh, and Maxine will be honored here this weekend.
That's right.
She will be here with her children, with our young people.
And Constance Baker Motley.
Yes,
The great
great.
judge.
Yeah, she's in two places here, and in the women's, and in the Legal Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Wow. So here, Brittany loves this room, y'all. Now, but before we do though, this is the pre-Reconstruction era of women's.
Yes.
Suffrage.
The women's suffrage movement. Yes.
Who was somebody? So we see Harriet Tubman, Mary McLeod Bethune. This is
What's the name? Terrell.
Mary Church Terrell.
Yeah.
Terrell.
Yeah. And some of them, we should have all their names there. Oh, I think their names on that wall.
Lucretia Mott. Mm-hmm. And Lucretia Mott and Susan B. Anthony. That's Susan B. Anthony. So, yeah, but these are some of the names of the women.
Here is very interesting too. Oh, going to this wall, Jackie Walker, a very dear friend of mine. I don't know why we got her in the corner. She was the first woman ever elected, black or white, to the Dallas County. And she died in a car accident before she took office. And they broke the rules. Usually they give it to a family member, but they gave it to a white man. This is the actual vest that Marie Foster wore when she walked from Selma to Montgomery.
Is that right?
If you see the footage, she was beaten on the bridge. She's one of the women laying on the ground. But even after they beat her on Bloody Sunday, she walked the whole Fifth House. And this jacket is so historical. She got the names of King and all these people on her jacket.
Wow.
That's right, on the jacket. And those are the shoes that she wore. When she walked the whole 50 miles. And there's the hat that she wore.
Wow.
She was one of the founders of this museum.
Outstanding.
Yeah. Oh, I love this lady too. She just about gave up her life to join the movement. And they donated this painting to us after Mama Lily died. I got an excellent video of her story. She literally left her family to join Dr. King. And she was beaten very badly on the bridge, and she still has scars from it.
National Organization for Women, now on the wall.
Yeah.
You know I'm a light member now.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. These are some of these are the actual footprints now, people. We actually had their footprint put in this so that at least that part of their life
and these
story.
Are people who marched from Selma to Montgomery.
Yeah.
And one more, we just need Dolores.
She was here a few years ago.
I remember.
Yes. That's the good thing about Jubilee. We recognize the struggles of other people. We've honored people of the First Nation. I like that instead of calling them Native Americans. The First Nation people have been honored. Hispanic people have been honored. We've been honored. And so this Jubilee in the museum, probably the most diverse celebration that you've seen. You know, we have people from Cobra, the reparations movement, the Black nationalist movement, the civil rights movement, the human rights movement, the women's movement, you know, all come and they're part of this celebration.
So Dr. King and Gandhi here.
Mm-hmm. The principles of nonviolence. This weekend we are actually celebrating these principles. We've had workshops on these principles all week and at the Nonviolence Center. And people are being certified in nonviolence. And if you want to take this course in nonviolence, it's offered at the center every 3 months under the direction of Dr. Bernard Lafayette. And you can just call 526-4531, 334-526-4531 to get more information. There are people from all over the country that comes to the center, which is located right on the Alabama River, to take these workshops in Kenya nonviolence.
Well, Dr. King. So, folks, we're going into the kind of the main area. The first thing we did, we went in reverse.
Yeah, we went in reverse.
Because I'm backwards like that.
Well, these are pictures from the march.
The march from Selma to Montgomery.
And some of the actual pictures of the various marches. You know, they wouldn't allow but a limited number of people to march the whole way. So when you see masses number of people, those are people that join the march For example, at the end of the march.
And you weren't here at that time.
No.
You were
I
way
think
in
that's why I
school.
feel so strong about preserving the history, because I was not here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outstanding. There's, in the middle right there, the death of Jimmy Lee Jackson. That's what really got a lot of this started.
Yes, and you see a picture of the man that killed him, which is rarely shown. This is the state trooper that killed him. And listen to this. Is it still not true? 30 years later, he was finally prosecuted, but he only got 3 months in jail for murder. That's it. 3 months. And that was many years later. So the fact is, seldom, if ever, were people arrested or prosecuted for killing black people and white civil rights workers. It just didn't happen. And rarely were people arrested or prosecuted for raping black women and children. That's why today at our mock trial, we will be focusing on the rape of black women and children for 300 years and asking for reparations, to educate people that this U2 movement, Time Out movement, should have been started maybe 200 years ago, because it was legal to rape black women and children in this country, not in Russia, not in Syria. It was legal to rape black women and children here and to beat them, as you see here.
But if I could just add to that, though, and folks, we're at the National Voting Rights Museum and Institute here in Selma, Alabama, beautiful museum. We're going to wrap up here in a moment, but Dr. Daniels back in the studio. We, as black men, were sexually assaulted on those plantations.
You were.
We were all sexually assaulted on the auction block, but they would come and feel us up before they bought us.
That's true.
So it's basically black too. All of us have had to endure that. And it's been handed down in that way for generations. So the mock trial is going to deal with that?
You know, I think you're right. Well, to leave out what happened to black men would not be fair.
Because they would feel our testicles to see if we could produce children, because we were bred like animals.
And what's one of the worst things that happened when the forced rape of black men and women to produce more slave children to work the plantation, when the transatlantic slave trade was prohibited by law.
Right.
They had these birthing farms where black men and women were forced to have sex to produce children. They didn't care if that was your mother, your father. It's just sick. But I'm so concerned that we don't get sick and that we get well. And I think that's what Jubilee is about, too. It's about healing.
Yeah.
It's also about remembering, but not remembering to hate, but remembering to heal.
Yeah.
Yes. And these images of our people who are still determined to hold on and to march on in spite of the state troopers, in spite of the hatred. And this now, we are right outside. This museum is located where this took place.
Yeah.
These beatings took place right outside of this museum.
We're going to have Brittany bring the camera over this way so you can see the bridge from here out the window. And we're just about out of court with our last. Tell everybody who the Courageous Eight were right here.
These were people, these were the adults in Selma who laid the foundation for voter registration and the movement. It was dangerous. There was a law that said they could not meet, and they continued to meet secretly. Yeah. So they were very courageous men and women, but they could not ignite the movement. They laid the foundation for the movement, and it's the young people who built on that foundation, and the movement ignited into a full movement in '63.
So we're going to...
Dr. King only came 2 years later. People don't understand or they forget. Dr. King never went where people were not already organized in the movement.
Yeah. The senator has joined us. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Hank Sanders coming in door just in the nick of time. Hey, man, how are you?
Man, I'm doing great. It's just good to see you back in Selma again. You always do such a great job.
Well, thank you. You know, and one of the other things, Mr. Drama, I have to remind y'all, my paternal great-great-grandmother was born here in Selma in 1856. And
It's amazing that you know that history. Most of us don't know the history of our great-great-grandparents.
we just done a virtual tour on social media. Everybody has seen the museum all over. We should honor you though because you're retiring from the Senate.
Well, I'm not retiring. I'm just not running again.
You're not gonna run again.
Not running again. But Malika, my daughter, will be running, and I think she'll be a better senator than I ever was.
Well, I was seeing last night because Reverend Jackson used to always introduce Malika and say, the next governor of Alabama. Now, and I told her last night, now, if Stacey wins in Georgia, which hopefully will happen in November, we might have something. And, I was on a symposium the other day, a panel about Marion Barry. And in politics, Marion is math. Marion taught me how to count, Hank. And so we were out in the parking lot last night counting votes. I said, well, how many counties, and I was really doing the math, helping her do the math. I hope she does win. But your service, has been a true example of the movement going into the voting booth and then going into the halls of power, Hank.
Well, but I never fooled myself that I could go into the Alabama legislature and change everything. So I understood that my job was to find ways to empower people in the community who was building institutions, who were fighting and struggling, who were making movement. So I never fooled myself that I was going to change the world in the Alabama legislature.
These two are the baddest lawyers in the country. Come beside me. You two met in college.
Law school.
In law school, met at Harvard Law School, right?
Well, we really met when we were both in college, but we both went to Harvard I went for a history summer school program, and she went for a legal summer school program. That's where we met. We were still in college.
Who approached who first?
It was just pass and say hello. And when we were in college, it's only when we got to law school that we connected.
And so who said what to who?
Who remembers that, right?
I remember it all.
You do? You remember it? What happened?
Well, in truth, we started calling each other homegirl and homeboy, so we were very close, and we became best friends. So it wasn't romantic at all, and I had promised that I was never going to marry a woman who talked more than I did. and then I saw a movie called Wine in the Wilderness. It was a play, and it's the long and short of it is there was an attraction between a black man and a black woman, and black woman say, you attracted to me, aren't you? Say, but you're never gonna approach me. He said, well, no. He said, that's what's wrong with you black men. Y'all go and find the weak women, and then y'all leave all of the weak men for the strong women. And I decided that I was strong enough to try.
That's beautiful. Well, the two of them have done this, y'all, where we stand right here, building this museum, keeping this annual commemoration alive, and we're just so thankful for both of them and their service, and the spirit of Selma lives on. And as we were saying before you got here, Hank, it's so organic. People come every year, and those of you who haven't had a chance to come, I think after even the three of us are gone, whenever that's going to be, folk going to still keep coming to Selma.
Well, and I hope so, and I hope the spirit of the Jubilee remains the same. Yeah. This is the largest annual civil rights gathering in the world, right. not just in this country, in the world. And the spirit is still toward the civil rights hopes of building, of changing, of movement. And, it's so easy to slip in just a celebration. Yeah. And I hope and pray that spirit continue.
Any closing thoughts?
Well, I'm just so happy that this Jubilee is dedicated to keeping alive Dr. King's vision to end poverty. And so we have Dr. Barber and SCLC move forward on the Poor People's March. Today, there will be an organizing tour through Selma and Lowndes County to see those communities in poverty, to encourage them to fight for themselves. And of course, we have a special tribute to our dear beloved Dick Gregory. and Jesse Jackson and Maxine Waters. So we have so many heroes and sheroes. And it's not too late to come to Selma. And you can come right now. Sunday, we will not only have the march, but after the march, there's a very special gospel concert and tribute to Dr. King. Martin Luther King III will be here. The senator from California will be here.
Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Might be the next president. She don't like, when I say Madam President, she gets just calling me that. I'm going to do it again. Say Madam President.
And I was really pleased that Regina Bell, who's going to be on our stage, but said, I'm going to stay to March, and I want to stay for the women's conference.
Wow, that's
so
great.
we have people who are famous, but also connected to the history and want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And that's what's so exciting.
Well, every year I bring somebody new somehow who's never been in. Brittany's here for the first time. Is what I enjoy, and what I enjoy is the look on people's faces who come here for the first time, because it's just
And
mystifying.
you know who's coming? Who's already here? Dr. Adelaide Sanford, who's the vice president of the Regency. She is 92 years old, y'all, but she's here. She will start a workshop giving the overview in an hour.
All right.
She's right here with a delegation from New York. So people come from all over the country. California, all over the country.
And out of the country.
And from all over the world.
Yeah,
All over the world.
South Africa and.
Oh, yeah, Desmond Tutu's daughter's here also.
Yeah, Desmond Tutu's daughter's here. We're going to be honoring Dick Gregory. So this is wonderful. Before I send it back to Brittany, if you can kind of pan and show this image, and we're going to walk over to the window. So people can see the bridge. Okay, we're going to walk over to the window so people can see the bridge right before we close out. But this is the foot of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, y'all. And this is where it all happened, March 7th, 1965. We were looking right out the window on the bridge. And
And the trees kind of blocking part of the view from here, but that's the bridge that starts right there.
yeah. And then if you look right across the street, those are the monuments. We just read out a cord, y'all. We have stretched this. We are running an extension cord throughout the museum, but you can see it. Hank, man, again, thank you for all you do, man, and thank you for just including me and allowing me to be a part of it.
No, we just appreciate you because you're not just included, you come and contribute, you live, and we're thankful.
Thank you. Dr. Daniels, I'm going to send it back to the studio. I don't even know what time it is. Okay, well, that's perfect. So we get ready to wrap, get a break in. We miss Ron.
Yeah, well, I'm nostalgic. I'm ready to jump on the plane and come down there. I'm ready to jump on the plane and come down. It is an excellent tour, beautiful tour, extraordinarily well done as we would expect it to be done with you, Reverend Mark, looking through in the museum. It's so beautiful. Tribute to the incredible work of a very, very powerful, courageous, visionary African couple. We can't thank them so much enough for their service. I had to cringe, too, though. I didn't realize that Gwen Patton had passed away until I just heard it today.
You saw my reaction. I didn't know Gwen had passed. He was talking on the radio. He didn't know Gwen had passed either.
Yeah, I did not know that. So, but anyway, I'll have to go tell my dear beloved wife, Mary, about that because she did a lot of work, not only in the South, all over the country, Right.
Well, Ron, we're going to get back to you, man. Thank you. And much love, everyone. We'll be continuing our coverage from Selma and have more for you on Monday once we're back in the studio, ladies and gentlemen. So we thank you. Dr. Daniels, take it away. And Wakanda forever, my brother.
All right. Okay. and I know it's going to be great. I'm there in spirit.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. What a beautiful tour. Those of you who listened on radio, you could still kind of hear it. But those of you who saw it on Facebook Live, it was really incredible and very well done, particularly the interview that Reverend Mark had at the